The champagne glass hit the marble floor like it was falling in slow motion. My mother's mouth hung open, frozen in shock as she stared at me. The client beside her, the one she'd just told I was a disappointment, looked back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. Jade, my mother's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. I own here, Mother. Let me back up. My name is Jade Collins. 10 minutes earlier, my mother had walked into my private aviation hangar with her biggest client, laughing and waving her champagne glass like she owned the place. She had no idea she was about to board my private jet, the one I bought, the one from my company that she desperately needed to impress this client. She's just a disappointment, I heard her say as they walked toward the jet. A phase we regret. I was standing behind them, clipboard in hand, wearing a suit worth more than her car. She hadn't even looked at my face. 15 years of being invisible in my own home had made me basically a ghost to her. The client, Hayes from the Hensley Group, nodded along to her words, not knowing the disappointment she was talking about, had built the empire he was currently admiring. When I stepped forward and introduced myself as the CEO and founder of PulseLink Global Systems, the woman they were meeting today, that's when the glass slipped from her manicured fingers. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the hangar. My father went pale. My brother Bryce, the golden child, looked like he'd been slapped. All those years of them treating me like nothing had led to this perfect moment of truth. Before I even tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? If you have, you'll feel this story deep in your soul. And if you know that kind of pain, hit subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because stories like this remind us that sometimes silence and strength are the best revenge. Growing up in the Collins household wasn't a childhood. It was a competition I couldn't win. My parents, Victor and Cynthia Collins, ran a high-profile consulting firm that catered to elite clients. Image was everything. Results were currency. And love? Love was something you earned through achievement. I learned this the hard way at age 7 when I brought home my first A-. My mother hired a tutor before dinner was over. Meanwhile, my brother Bryce got praised for C+s because he showed leadership potential. Our home was always spotless. Furniture you couldn't really sit on, carpets that never wrinkled, and dinner conversations that felt like job interviews. Sit up straighter, Jade. That's not an appropriate topic, Jade. Why can't you be more like your brother? Every day, another reminder that I wasn't enough. When I was 12, I overheard my mother talking to her friend about Bryce's future. He'll take over the company someday, she said proudly. We're already setting up connections at Harvard. Then, her friend asked about me. My mother laughed. That hollow society laugh that sounds like ice cubes clinking in a glass. Jade? Well, she's not really business material. Too sensitive. Too average. But she'll make someone a good wife someday. I stood frozen in the hallway, her words burning into my memory. That night, I cried myself to sleep. By 14, I'd learned to fade into the background at family events. I became so quiet that sometimes party guests would ask if the Collins only had one child. My parents rarely corrected them. Bryce got the best schools, private sports coaches, European vacations with our parents. I got hand-me-down school supplies and was left with housekeepers during business trips. It's just practical, my father explained once. Bryce needs the connections for his future. You'll be fine. But the worst part wasn't what they didn't give me. It was how they made me believe I didn't deserve more. How they convinced me that my dreams were silly, my ambitions unrealistic, my very existence somehow less valuable. I spent years trying to earn a love that should have been freely given, years believing something was fundamentally wrong with me. I didn't know then that being underestimated would become my greatest advantage. I'll never forget the day I found out my mother actively worked against me. It was spring of my junior year. College applications were due, and I'd spent months perfecting my submission for the Bennett Design and Technology Entrepreneurship Scholarship. The award would cover full tuition and included a startup incubator program. My ticket to freedom. My grades were excellent. My portfolio included 3 app prototypes I'd built myself. I just needed a letter of recommendation, which my parents had reluctantly agreed to write. That afternoon, I was looking for a stapler in my father's home office when I saw 2 letters on his desk. The first was for Bryce, a glowing recommendation for a summer internship he hadn't even asked for. My mother had written that he was a visionary with extraordinary leadership potential and destined to transform the business world. Bryce, who barely maintained a B average and had been caught cheating twice. Then I saw my scholarship application. It was opened, the pages slightly wrinkled. Attached was a handwritten note in my mother's perfect cursive. Does not demonstrate promise, not recommended. My hands started shaking. I flipped through my application and found my personal essay covered in red ink. Unrealistic, lacks focus, too ambitious for her abilities. She had sabotaged me. I confronted her that evening, my voice breaking as I held up the papers. How could you do this to me? My mother barely looked up from her magazine. I did you a favor, Jade. That program accepts 1 in 1,000 applicants. I saved you from disappointment. You didn't want to save me from disappointment, I said. You just didn't want me to succeed. My father walked in, assessed the situation, and sighed. Your mother's right. The tech industry isn't for someone like you. We know what's best. That night, I removed every family photo from my bedroom walls. I placed my trust in them for 17 years, and all I got was betrayal. I submitted my application anyway, using my computer science teacher's recommendation instead. I didn't get the scholarship. But that moment changed everything. It was the first time I saw my parents not as flawed people who loved me imperfectly, but as active obstacles to my future. And obstacles can be overcome. The summer after high school graduation, my parents took Bryce to Europe to celebrate his acceptance to Wharton. They left me home to think about realistic options. I had already enrolled at Lakeside State University, a school my mother called a glorified community college, to study software architecture and logistics systems. I'd received a partial scholarship and planned to work part-time to cover the rest. 3 weeks into my first semester, I came home to find my belongings packed in garbage bags on the porch. We're not financing this pointless rebellion, my mother said through the doorway. Either transfer to the business management program at Clayton like we discussed, or find your own way. So you're kicking me out because I won't do exactly what you want? We're helping you make better choices, my father corrected. This is for your own good. That night, I slept in my 1998 Toyota Corolla in the university parking lot. The next day, I found a 24-hour gym with shower facilities and signed up. I got a job at the campus IT department, then another waiting tables at night. For 4 months, my car was my home. I kept my clothes in the trunk, studied under streetlights, and washed up in public bathrooms. I ate ramen cooked with hot water from gas stations and showered at the gym at 5 a.m. before classes. During those months, I built my first prototype, an AI-driven logistics system that could optimize routing for delivery companies. I coded between shifts, sometimes working until my laptop battery died, then continuing by hand in notebooks. One freezing December night, with frost forming on my car windows and my hands too cold to type, I finally broke down. I sobbed until my throat hurt, pounding my fists against the steering wheel. Why wasn't I ever enough for them? The silence that answered felt like its own kind of truth. That night, huddled under 3 blankets in my back seat, I made myself a promise. If they won't open the door for me, I'll build my own damn building. You know what hurts the most? Not what they did, but that I still tried to make them proud after everything. If you've ever given people too many chances, you already understand this pain. Don't just scroll, subscribe. Join people who've been through it too, because you deserve stories that make you feel seen. Sometimes the universe throws you a lifeline when you're one breath away from drowning. 6 months into living in my car, I scraped together $75 to attend the Regional Tech Innovation Conference. Not for the networking, I couldn't afford the right clothes for that, but for the free coffee, air conditioning, and Wi-Fi. I set up in the corner of the exhibition hall with my laptop and a stack of homemade business cards I'd printed at the university library. My plan? Show my logistics system prototype to anyone who would give me 5 minutes. No one did. I approached investor after investor, only to be talked over, ignored, or told to send an email. One venture capitalist actually laughed when I mentioned I was living in my car. "Honey," he said, patting my shoulder, "this isn't a charity. Come back when you've got real-world experience." By 4 p.m., I was ready to leave. My phone was at 12% battery, my stomach growling from skipping lunch to save money. Then I heard someone behind me. "Your algorithm accounts for weather pattern disruptions. Most logistics systems don't." I turned to find an older man studying my laptop screen. Salt and pepper beard, worn leather briefcase, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "It also factors in historical flight delays and crew change patterns." He nodded. "I'm Aaron Caldwell." My heart stopped. Everyone in tech knew Dr. Aaron Caldwell, the underdog kingmaker who'd backed 3 unicorn startups, the former MIT professor who'd revolutionized tech investing by focusing on founders, not just ideas. "You're homeless?" he asked bluntly, gesturing to the duffel bag under my chair. I swallowed my pride. "Living in my car temporarily. Family situation." Instead of pity, I saw something else in his eyes. Recognition. "I lived in my car for 8 months in 1992, he said, "before I founded Caldwell Systems." For the next 2 hours, I explained my vision for revolutionizing logistics, especially in private aviation. He asked questions that cut straight to the core, challenging assumptions I hadn't even recognized. As the conference emptied around us, he closed his notebook. "I want to invest $250,000 in you and your system." I nearly fell off my chair. "Why me?" When everyone else walked away. His answer changed my life. "Because you don't need approval, you need momentum. I see momentum in you." The investment came with one condition, words that became my personal religion. "When you build this from the ground up, never let anyone tell you where your ceiling is." When I finally stood my ground, they called me heartless. But tell me, where were they when I was breaking? If you've ever had to choose peace over people, this channel is your space. Subscribe, not for me, but for every quiet soul who took their power back. Dr. Caldwell's investment changed everything, but not overnight. I rented a tiny warehouse space in an industrial park and a 1-room apartment with a mattress on the floor. I showered daily now, but still ate ramen most nights. The difference? Now I had hope and a plan. My days stretched to 18 hours. I hired 2 fellow students part-time, Miguel, a coding genius who believed in my vision, and Leah, a logistics specialist who'd worked at FedEx. We couldn't afford desks, so we used plastic tables from the dollar store. "We look like a garage sale," Leah joked one night as we worked until 2 a.m. Every empire starts somewhere, I replied, not knowing how true that would become. The breakthrough came 3 months in. We cracked the code on real-time rerouting for private jets, something the industry desperately needed, but nobody had solved. Our system could predict weather patterns, maintenance issues, and airspace restrictions hours before they happened, saving millions in fuel and preventing costly delays. I named the company PulseLink Global Systems, the pulse of data linked across the globe. Our first potential client meeting was a disaster. The CEO of a small jet charter company looked at me, 21, female, wearing my only blazer, and asked if the actual founder would be joining us. I smiled politely. I am the founder. He left after 15 minutes. But the seventh meeting stuck. Jackson Aviation, a mid-sized private jet operator, was losing money on last-minute flight changes. Their operations director, a woman named Dana, didn't care about my age. She cared about results. If your system does half of what you claim, we'll sign today. We installed a pilot program that saved them $42,000 in the first month. They signed a 3-year contract worth $1.2 million. Meanwhile, my family remained clueless. I visited for Christmas that year, sitting through the usual interrogation about my poor life choices. Still playing with computers? My father asked over turkey dinner. Yes, I answered truthfully. Still in tech. My mother sighed dramatically. When will you grow up and get a real career? Your brother just got promoted to junior analyst. I smiled, thinking about the contract I'd just signed with a Saudi prince for his fleet of jets. I'm doing okay, I said quietly. Tech support isn't a career, my father muttered. It's what people do when they fail at real business. If only they knew. 3 years passed like a fever dream. The warehouse became a real office, then 3 offices across 2 countries. My team of 3 grew to 78, with operations specialists poached from major airlines and tech wizards who'd left Google and Amazon to join us. By my 25th birthday, PulseLink Global Systems had secured contracts with 27 private jet fleets across 4 continents, generated $56 million in annual revenue, landed 2 classified government contracts for secure transport, reached a valuation of $220 million. I bought my first house, a modest 3-bedroom with a view of the city. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed tech millionaire. I still drove a Toyota, just a newer model. The success felt surreal, but I kept it quiet, not out of shame, but strategy. I watched from afar as my parents continued their predictable pattern. Every holiday, it was the same performance. Bryce just got promoted to senior analyst after 5 years at the same entry-level position. Bryce is dating the daughter of the Thompson family, who dumped him 3 weeks later. Bryce might make partner by 30 at a firm steadily losing clients. Meanwhile, I sat at their dinner table, the invisible daughter with the little computer job, nodding politely as they lamented my wasted potential. Such a shame, my mother would tell relatives. She had opportunities, but chose computers. She'd say this while checking email on her iPhone, completely missing the irony. What they didn't know, I was speaking at international conferences, being featured in Aviation Weekly, turning down acquisition offers from tech giants. My team became the family I never had. We celebrated wins together, pulled all-nighters during crises, built something meaningful from nothing. Miguel, my first hire, once asked why I never told my parents about our success. They'd be proud now, he said, confused. I smiled. I'm not looking for their pride anymore. The truth was simpler. I was waiting, not for revenge, but for the perfect moment of recognition. The moment they'd realize on their own, exactly who I'd become while they weren't looking. That moment was coming faster than any of us expected. The first sign of trouble came through industry gossip. Collins Consulting, my parents' firm, was losing clients. 3 major accounts had jumped ship in 6 months. Their stock price had dropped 22% since January. I kept tabs on them through business news and mutual connections, watching as the cracks in their perfect facade widened. Then came my mother's unexpected call. "Jade, darling," she said, voice dripping with forced warmth. "We're having a small family dinner Friday. Do come." Small family dinner meant emergency discussion. I arrived precisely on time to find my parents and Bryce already seated, faces grim. My father poured expensive scotch with a shaking hand. "The Hensley Group is threatening to leave us," he announced without preamble. I nearly choked on my water. The Hensley Group was their biggest client, a pharmaceutical empire worth billions. Losing them would tank Collins Consulting. "What happened?" I asked. My mother waved dismissively. "They've become unreasonable, demanding capabilities we don't have. They need a specialized logistics partner for their medical shipments, private jets, security protocols, real-time tracking." My heart pounded. She was describing PulseLink exactly. "They gave us an ultimatum," my father continued. "Either we secure this logistics partnership, or they're taking their entire portfolio elsewhere." Bryce looked sick. "That's over 40% of our revenue." "I might be able to help," I offered carefully. "My company has connections in logistics." The silence broke with my mother's laugh, cold and dismissive. "Oh, Jade, this is serious business, not your little computer job." My father nodded. "We need established players, major aviation partners, data security experts." "But Enough," my mother snapped. "This is precisely why we worried about your career choices. When real opportunities arise, you have nothing substantial to offer." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. What they didn't know, couldn't imagine, was that the Hensley Group was already in preliminary talks with PulseLink. They were impressed with our security protocols and global reach. My parents needed exactly what I had built, and soon they'd have no choice but to see it. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, sent to PulseLink's general inquiry address. "Request for partnership proposal, confidential, Collins Consulting." I stared at my screen, a slow smile spreading across my face. The sender was Lisa Mercer, my mother's executive assistant, the same woman who used to tell me my mother was too busy to come to my school events. I forwarded it to my team with a simple note: "This one's special." The request outlined exactly what we expected: private jet service for high-value pharmaceutical shipments, custom security routing for medical transport, real-time tracking and data encryption, global reach with 24-hour support capabilities. But the last paragraph revealed just how desperate they were. "Given our long-standing reputation, we would appreciate any consideration for preferential pricing. This partnership is time-sensitive and crucial to maintaining our relationship with a key client." Translation: "We're broke and begging. I could have ignored it. Could have let their company crash and burn. But that wouldn't give me what I truly wanted: recognition." I called my executive team into the conference room. "We're accepting this request," I announced, "but with special conditions." My COO raised an eyebrow. "What kind of conditions?" "The meeting happens at our Manhattan hangar, the one with the glass wall overlooking the runway. Full security team presence. The jets with our logo prominent on the tarmac." "Going for the wow factor?" my marketing director asked. I shook my head. "Going for truth." We sent back a formal acceptance, signing it simply PulseLink Management. We scheduled the meeting for the following Friday, giving me just enough time to prepare. That night, I couldn't sleep. After years of hiding my success, of sitting quietly through their dismissals, the tables were about to turn. I called Dr. Caldwell at midnight. "Am I being petty?" I asked him. "Setting this up just to see their faces when they realize?" His response was simple. "No, Jade. You're not being petty. You're claiming your worth." When I hung up, I felt calm for the first time in years. This wasn't about revenge. It was about finally being seen. Sometimes revenge isn't about payback. It's about peace. And if this story touched you, subscribe right now. Because somewhere out there, another person is watching in silence, needing a reminder that they're not alone, and your one click might help them find it. The morning of the meeting, I arrived at the hangar 3 hours early. Every detail mattered. I had our newest jet positioned directly in view of the entrance, its sleek white body gleaming with the PulseLink logo. The hangar itself, all glass and steel, had been polished until it shone. Coffee service with fine china, not paper cups. Fresh flowers on the conference table. This wasn't just a business meeting. This was theater. I dressed differently than usual, a tailored black suit that cost more than my first car, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. Professional, powerful, unmistakably in charge. "How do I look?" I asked Miguel, now my chief technology officer. "Like someone they should have believed in," he answered. At exactly 2:30 p.m., Blacktown cars pulled into the private entrance. My heart hammered against my ribs as security alerted me. "Collins party arriving with Hensley executives." Through the glass walls of my office, I watched them enter. My father, looking older than I remembered. My brother Bryce, nervously adjusting his tie. My mother, draped in designer clothes, and that familiar look of entitled confidence. Behind them walked Hayes Hensley himself, CEO of the Hensley Group and one of the wealthiest men in pharmaceuticals. My assistant led them to the waiting area overlooking the runway. My mother immediately took charge, pointing out features of the hangar to Hayes as if she knew anything about aviation. I stood at my office door, watching through the glass as my mother raised a champagne flute to her lips. Her diamond bracelet caught the light as she leaned in to whisper something to Hayes. Even from a distance, I could read her lips. "Just ignore her if you see her staff. My daughter works for people like this. She's a disappointment." They laughed together, clinking glasses. Hayes nodded politely, his eyes already scanning the room, looking for the executives he expected to meet. My legs felt like lead as I walked toward them, each step bringing me closer to the moment I'd waited years for. My mother's back was to me. She didn't turn when I approached, didn't notice as her client's expression changed from polite interest to confusion. I cleared my throat. "Mr. Hensley, welcome to PulseLink Global Systems. I'm Jade Collins, CEO and founder." My mother turned, champagne glass halfway to her lips. Our eyes met. Recognition dawned. The glass slipped from her fingers. Time froze as the champagne glass hit the floor and shattered. The sound echoed through the hangar like a gunshot. My mother's face drained of color. Her perfect mask cracked, revealing raw shock underneath. "Jade?" she whispered like she was seeing a ghost. My father stood paralyzed, mouth opening and closing without sound. Bryce's expression shifted from confusion to anger to jealousy in rapid succession. Hayes Hensley looked between us, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Collins?" he asked, connecting the dots. "As in—" "Yes," I replied, not taking my eyes off my mother. "These are my parents." "And you're the founder of PulseLink?" His tone was amused, almost delighted. I nodded. "For 7 years now." My mother found her voice, high and brittle. This is your company? The one they told us about?" "The very same," I said. the one with 27 private jet fleets, government contracts, global operations. I gestured to the sleek jet visible through the windows. The one you desperately need to save your business. The security team began cleaning up the broken glass. My mother's hands trembled as she stepped back, her designer heels crunching on crystal shards. "You never said anything," my father finally managed. "All these years, you never asked," I replied simply. Bryce pushed forward. "This has to be some kind of joke. There's no way you could build something like this." Hayes Hensley laughed, a genuine bark of amusement. "I assure you, Mr. Collins, your sister's company is very real and very impressive." He turned to me with newfound respect. "Though I'm only now understanding why you insisted on meeting here rather than at our offices." My mother's eyes darted around the hangar, taking in the staff deferring to me, the security personnel, the luxury and scale of the operation. Every detail screaming success. "All those times," she whispered, "when we said you were wasting your potential. When we told people you worked in tech support." I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just a strange emptiness where years of hurt had lived. "Shall we begin the meeting?" I asked professionally. "We have the contract prepared for review." My father stepped forward. "Jade, we need to talk about this. As a family." I met his gaze coolly. "We're not here as family. We're here as businesses negotiating a partnership." I turned to my assistant. "Please show everyone to the conference room." Before I even tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? If you have, you'll feel this story deep in your soul. And if you know that kind of pain, hit subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because stories like this remind us that sometimes silence and strength are the best revenge. As we settled into the conference room, I noticed something odd. Hayes Hensley didn't seem surprised by any of this. In fact, he looked entertained. While my parents and brother sat stiffly in their chairs, eyes still wide with shock, Hayes leaned toward me with a conspiratorial smile. "I've been looking forward to this meeting for months," he said, just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ever since your TED Talk on disrupting aviation logistics." My mother's head snapped up. "TED Talk?" Hayes nodded. "Oh yes. Your daughter is quite well known in certain circles. The future of secure transport. It was brilliant." I froze. "You knew before today?" He laughed. "Of course we knew. PulseLink has been on our radar for years. We've been using your systems for our Asian operations since last quarter." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. The Hensley Group wasn't discovering my company today. They already knew exactly who I was. "Then why—" I began. Hayes smiled. "Why pretend we needed an introduction? Why come through Collins Consulting at all?" He shrugged. "Professional curiosity, perhaps. When we realized the connection between our longtime consultants and the founder of the most innovative logistics company in the industry, well, I had to see it play out." My father's face reddened. "You set this up? Used our company as a stepping stone?" Hayes met his anger with cool professionalism. "Not at all, Victor. We genuinely need the services Collins Consulting outlined, but we've also been wanting to expand our relationship with PulseLink." This seemed efficient. The room fell silent as everyone processed this new information. Then Hayes leaned forward, his expression serious. "What I didn't expect was to discover that PulseLink's brilliant founder was completely unknown to her own family." He turned to my parents. "You should feel honored. Your daughter is one of the most powerful people in this market." His gaze sharpened. "Shame you never recognized what you had." My mother flinched as if she'd been slapped. Then Hayes did something unexpected. He stood, straightened his suit jacket, and addressed me directly. Ms. Collins, I've been following your career since you presented at the Aviation Security Summit 3 years ago. In fact, I've had my team studying your operational model for our own internal reforms. He extended his hand. It would be an honor to formalize our partnership today, directly with PulseLink. The implied message was clear. Collins Consulting was no longer needed. The next hour passed in a blur of contracts, handshakes, and crushed expectations. Hayes Hensley signed a direct partnership with PulseLink worth $38 million over 5 years. My parents watched, shell-shocked, as their biggest client slipped through their fingers right before their eyes. When the Hensley team left, my parents and brother remained, trapped in the awkward silence of a family reckoning 20 years overdue. You could fix this, my father finally said. One word from you and Hensley would keep us as consultants. I studied him, this man who dismissed me my entire life, now looking at me with desperate hope. I could, I agreed, but I won't. After everything we did for you? My mother's voice rose with indignation. What exactly did you do for me? I asked quietly. Sabotage my scholarship application? Tell me I wasn't worth investing in? Kick me out so I lived in my car for months? Her face paled. You lived in your car? You never asked where I went after you packed my things in garbage bags. Bryce slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. You're destroying our family business over ancient history. I turned to him. PulseLink only works with clients who treat their teams and their daughters with respect. My words landed with precision, professional, dignified, final. Within 3 months, Collins Consulting lost 4 more major clients. The Hensley effect, once word spread that they'd lost that account, others began questioning their relevance. 6 months later, they filed for bankruptcy. Bryce called me drunk one night, his words slurring with rage. You did this on purpose. You ruined everything. My mother left tearful voicemails. We're your family, Jade. How could you let this happen? My father sent formal business proposals, each one more desperate than the last. None of them ever said, I'm sorry. None of them acknowledged how they'd treated me. None of them saw me as anything but a resource to exploit. So I did what they taught me to do with disappointments. I moved on. My company expanded into Europe, then Asia. We added ground logistics to our services. The valuation hit $1.2 billion, and I finally stopped waiting for their approval. 3 years passed before I heard from them again. My assistant forwarded an email with the subject line, Family Meeting Request, Urgent. My mother had written, We need to speak with you about an important opportunity. Your father and I have a new business concept that could benefit from your expertise. Another attempt to use me, but this time I wasn't angry, just tired. I agreed to meet them at PulseLink headquarters, not out of obligation, but closure. They arrived punctually, noticeably diminished. My father's expensive watch was gone, my mother's designer handbag replaced with something practical. Bankruptcy had apparently taught them something about priorities. You look well, my mother said, her eyes taking in my corner office with its view of the Manhattan skyline. Thank you, I replied. How have you been? My father cleared his throat. We've been rebuilding. Small consulting projects, local clients. Then he launched into his pitch, a new business focused on pharmaceutical logistics consulting. They needed startup capital, industry introductions, and my endorsement. We thought perhaps, my mother added, her voice softening, it could be a family venture, a chance to work together. I studied their faces, searching for any sign of genuine connection. All I saw was the same calculation that had defined our relationship my entire life. After everything we did for you growing up, she continued, we hoped you might want to help your family in return. I took a deep breath. I'm going to stop you there. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. I won't be investing in your new venture. I won't be providing introductions or endorsements. My father started to protest, but I held up my hand. I wish you success. I truly do. But our relationship isn't ready for a business partnership. What is that supposed to mean? My mother asked, eyes narrowing. It means I've built boundaries where you only saw bridges to your own success. For the first time in my life, I felt completely free of their approval. Not angry anymore, just clear. After my parents left my office that day, I didn't feel triumph or satisfaction. I felt something far more valuable: peace. I walked to the rooftop garden of our headquarters, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. The same colors I used to see from the back seat of my car when I had nothing but dreams and determination. The journey from invisible daughter to CEO wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. For years, I'd carried their voices in my head. Not good enough, just a disappointment. A phase we regret. Those voices grew quieter with each success, each milestone, each person who believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Eventually, they faded to whispers I could barely hear. My company continued to thrive. We expanded into 36 countries, created jobs for hundreds of people, made the impossible possible for clients worldwide. I built my life like I built my business, intentionally. Surrounded myself with people who celebrated my wins instead of diminishing them. Created my own family of friends who loved without conditions. My relationship with my parents never fully healed. We speak occasionally now, birthdays, holidays, brief updates. The distance between us isn't a wound anymore, it's a boundary. Sometimes people ask if I regret not telling them about my success sooner. I don't. Those years of building in silence taught me that true worth isn't measured by others' recognition. Last month, I received a handwritten letter from my mother. No requests, no business proposals, just an acknowledgement. I'm sorry we couldn't see who you were becoming. It wasn't everything, but it was something. The truth is, not all family stories have perfect endings with tearful reunions and complete forgiveness. Some just have people who finally learn to see each other clearly, even from a distance. I think about that champagne glass sometimes, how it shattered so completely on the hangar floor, how in that moment, their perception of me broke just as thoroughly. Sometimes things need to break so you can build something new, something stronger, something that's truly yours. They called me a disappointment, but the truth is, I was never the failure. They were. Sometimes revenge isn't about payback, it's about peace. And if this story touched you, subscribe right now. Because somewhere out there is someone just like you, watching in silence, needing to hear that their worth isn't defined by those who failed to see it. Your subscription might help their story find them when they need it most.